Thank you so much for coming. And I'd like to introduce Natalia Rose, author and clinical nutritionist. She has 2 children and lives in New York City. She's written the Raw Food Detox Diet, Raw Food Life Force Energy, The New Energy Body, and her latest book will come out Mother's Day 2009, Detox for Women. Natalia Rose.
Hello. Mary, you've done a beautiful job tonight, getting all your friends and colleagues and people who are supporting the website, which is so exciting. First of all, I just want us all to take a moment to see where we're sitting, or where I'm standing. This is the most exquisite room. And when I walked into this room, the first thing I could think of was, feel the energy in here, in each one of you, in the room itself, in the lights, in the colors. And that's what life is about. Life is about energy. It's about energy that's not being stagnated by things that get stuck in us. Now, things get stuck in our bodies from the way we live. This lifestyle, this modern lifestyle, is putting things into our bodies that stop the flow of life force. What is pregnancy? What is birth? It is the birth of life. It's the continuation of life flowing through us. Unfortunately, it's been compromised in our society, and it's something we can't overlook any longer. And there could be no more important moment in time for us to stop and get together and create a community, a support group for women to teach them how to indeed feed their bodies and how to regenerate life so we don't lose this most precious thing. And I hope she'll forgive me, but in fact, I think I got her permission. But Heather and her beautiful son Oliver, who are sitting in the back of the room, brought something to my attention that is indeed the very reason that we're here tonight. And that is that there is so much, 2 reasons really. There's so much misinformation circulating for pregnant women, and there's also a lack of support. So what needs to be in place to fix that is a support group with the right information. And you might think that's very difficult to find, but indeed, Mary's initiated this tonight. And the reason I bring up Heather's story in particular is because often there are a lot of symbols that send us in a direction that seems right. And there can be a lot of good reasons behind it. For example, there are a lot of women who are trying to be healthy, trying to maybe be vegetarian or be vegan or be raw foodist. Or they want to just be green, but they're not really sure what that means, so they go in there on their own and they look on the internet and they get some advice, and they maybe, after they've had a baby, they pursue a lactation consultant, or they, on the one hand they're getting the doctor in the hospital, then they are seeing a nutritionist or maybe a lactation consultant, and each one of those individuals is going to give them a different perspective. It's going to be based on what they've learned from their history, their backgrounds, and their teachers. Now, along the way, knowledge gets lost. The knowledge of how to have healthy babies has been lost. There are answers, and the truth exists, and our highest teacher, of course, is truth. I'm going in a roundabout way to bring us back to an idea, for example, in Heather's case, are you forgiving me here? Yeah. of being a vegan mom who is rightly devoted to raising her child in the most green, healthiest way she can. But in so doing, because information's been lost, there's so much that she didn't know that could have solved an issue that is now causing her to kind of have to go back in time and fix it, because she's only now hearing about this correct information. And that is the issue of lactation. And the reason most women stop nursing their babies is because doctors tell them they don't have enough milk. Now, they don't have enough milk because they don't know how to make milk. And lactation consultants, bless their hearts, they don't know how to make milk for the women who really struggle to make milk either. So you've got a lot of women who are stopping feeding because their doctors are telling them they have failure to thrive, and their children aren't going to gain weight. So anyone who's ever been a new mother, I have 2 kids myself. Raise your hand if you have any children. Okay. You know the feeling of all you want to do in the world is keep your baby alive, keep them healthy and safe. You're going to listen to your doctor because they're your doctor. But meanwhile, there's another way to get milk that your doctor doesn't know about, because this is like the mystical truths and mystical knowledge of being a woman that has, I suppose, was left on the reservation, you know, back before there were reservations. And so, for example, this evening, what I would love to share with Heather is how she indeed, after even not nursing for 4 months, could bring her breast milk, bring her milk back, and why her baby, indeed, it's not that the baby had failure to thrive because she couldn't produce milk, because her body was incapable of producing milk. It's because her baby had failure to thrive because she wasn't producing milk, because she didn't know what to do or how to eat in order to produce the milk that her body could have made, given half a chance. But given what we know about how to eat and how to live, we don't get that chance. So right here is where we start giving women that chance. So what I'd like to do is just kind of open up the forum for some questions and answers. One thing I want to mention before I do that is that the way we're going to present, the way women can get information on pregnancy, it might kind of, let me back up. It might intimidate a woman who's already pregnant or who already has children at various stages to hear that there was a better way. Because they'll think, oh, I should have done that, I've lost out. It's never too late. You know, if kids are grown and they're already having babies of their own, it's a little late. But, you know, if you have a 4-month-old, if you have a 4-year-old, if you have a 14-year-old, those are all stages and ages where things can indeed be corrected. And it can be easy, it can be fun, it can be delicious, and all these misnomers that people have about the healthy way or the green way, being out of the way, or, you know, just being whatever it is, expensive. You know, we live in a life that just runs a mile a minute, and so many of the women today are working women, and they have other people taking care of their kids, and they're getting advice from, you know, their mother-in-law, who they're, you know, meanwhile fighting with because they don't like what she has to say, but, you know, she's making the rules. And so with all this conflict, I just want to say that it's really doable, and it's actually easier than the other way, which winds up, you know, turning into families with, you know, dysfunctionality, kids on drugs, committing suicide, having all kinds of issues. And the family structure is deteriorating, and at its root is the issue that this life force we talked about at the beginning isn't flowing through it. So it really occurs on a macrocosmic and a microcosmic level. So we want to have the energy flowing through the cells of the body, so we're producing healthy babies who don't have emotional and mental and physical issues, who can then continue to emanate and be a conduit of this life-generating force. So I'll open it up. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Do a lot of women think that starting out healthier in the earlier pregnancy will help for any autism in the child?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that being kind of a distributional kind of guard against that?
Okay, so you want to basically what you're asking is if one is careful before pregnancy, will it lower the odds of a child being diagnosed with autism or having it? Okay, so that's a big question you're asking. Absolutely is the short answer, because every single thing that you do to your body before you get pregnant gets into your DNA. It's basically we're like computer programs. Our DNA just absorbs. You're telling it what to do. When you give it food to eat, it's processing that. It's saying, well, here's my world. This is what I take in. Some of that's going to mutate the DNA, and some of it is going to make for the body evolving into being a mechanism that can better deal with that environment. So everything we send to our DNA is going to wind up being reflected in our offspring. So whenever you start, the earliest you start, the more of an effect it will have. And of course, you know, I believe that these inoculations, the immunizations that the kids get, also are big contributors to it. Yeah. Yes.
Hi.
Right there.
I have a few questions. First, my baby's 6 weeks old, so she's getting shots next week, and we're talking about shots. But besides that, I just got cleared, you know, for the sex thing. So now I'm so afraid my boobs are going to squirt everywhere, since we talk about like
Be so lucky.
Yeah. Amen.
Okay, so I do have a ton of milk. I mean, people do don't. My freezer's overflowing. I've already sent a freezer full home.
So does her.
I'm more than happy to pump for you. So how do I make it so so that I feel like I'm constantly making them. Like, how do I get it so that it's only what my baby needs and not just so much of it that like he choked.
But your body thought you had twins?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a situation of overabundance of milk. Well, your body will naturally adapt. I mean, it's 6 weeks. You know, one of the things that most women don't realize is it takes actually 8 weeks to establish proper milk supply. So your body's just figuring out how much it needs. Nursing is all about supply and demand. So if, you know, in a case where a woman's not producing enough breast milk, there is not enough time at the breast. So what you literally have to do is sit and nurse your baby for, you know, all day, it seems in the beginning. After 8 weeks, everything changes, often before that. In the case of having too much, well, that's kind of the opposite coin, the opposite side of the same coin. And your body should self-regulate once it realizes that, you know, the kid's getting what he needs. Okay. Anything else? Yes, Mary.
What are some great foods for cleansing and detoxifying the body?
Okay. Yeah, great question. Okay, so what we need to make sure of when it comes to pregnancy is that we never start anything new that's going to radically sort of jolt the body when we've already conceived. All of that should be done before you conceive, which comes back to the first question here about preventing autism and everything else under the sun. The goal is to take, you know, a year at least. Really should be minimum. I mean, some people think, oh, well, I'm going to detox for a month and then I'm going to be clean. And no, it doesn't happen that way. First, can I just explain a little bit about how this waste I mentioned, this sort of stuff that gets into the body gets there? And because I think this is extremely valuable for you guys to understand, even to take with you for all you guys out there who are never going to, you know, have a baby. By the way, the guy's seed is really important. Remember that the soil is actually more important than, rather the seed is more important than the soil. You know, the thing is planted in, the thing. So we really, guys out there, don't just think this is just your wives and girlfriends' job to get clean before you have a baby. No. That's it's a huge mistake. But so let's open this up to guys and girls who are planning to cleanse. What happens is there's a lot of stuff. Remember we said we take in stuff that doesn't really belong in the body. When that goes into the body can get rid of some of it. So for example, let's say we're talking about, and this is kind of radical because the body's actually only meant to take in fruits, vegetables, mother's milk for babies, water, coconut milk, and sunshine, basically, and happy emotions, joy. Everything else has trouble processing. So to a certain degree, of course, there's a hierarchy to these things which we would call non-human foods, not fit for human consumption. There's a hierarchy. Obviously, you know, a piece of grilled fish is going to go through the body a lot better than Velveeta. But neither one of them is going to make a perfect exit because you can't pass a square peg through a round hole. So you're going to have something left in the body. We call that waste residue in my field. Waste residue. Sounds good, huh? So what you have is 3 meals a day, plus snacks, plus soda pop, going into the body every day, 365 days a year. So you're going to be passing, if you're lucky, say 40% of that. The rest is going to remain in your body because, you know, it gets stuck. And one thing we have to remember is the body's 98.6 degrees. That's the Arizona desert. It's hot. It's going to dehydrate. So not only is the stuff going in that doesn't belong there, but it's sitting dehydrating, which means it's going to have even less of a chance the next day or the next day to make it out. So initially, that waste, and I started to gross you guys out, but if I had the opportunity to share this with you, it could save a lot of illnesses and a lot of weight issues. So if this continually goes into the body, then initially the intestine gets full, and then once that waste has nowhere else to go, it basically permeates the intestinal walls, which are very thick and you know, it's multi-layered. It's kind of like a sponge. If you ever look at a sponge in your kitchen, there's all these layers. You can't even count them all. So the waste fills up the intestine and fills up the layers of the intestinal wall, and then there's still food coming down the pike, but where is that going to go? That actually winds up permeating the intestinal walls and going into the body at large. And where that lands is your sickness, is your cellulite, is everything under the sun, the asthma, everything. So once that settles in the body, what cleansing is, what detox is, these terms have been thrown around so much lately, but no one seems to really understand what they mean, because a cleanse isn't a cleanse until the waste has left the body. So you'll have these products that you can find at GNC or a health food store or online. All these have you guys seen those Acai things and flush the body? Yeah. So what those do is they create the potential for a cleanse. They go in and they start to attract, to awaken some of this old stuff that's been sitting in the body. But unless you're pouring this waste matter through your cells and you're waking up just covered in gunk in the morning, they didn't work. Okay, so this stuff actually has to be awakened and it has to leave the body, which is why you're going to actually see it, in a very obvious way, in a very obvious place. I'll try to restrain myself a little bit here, but so when the depth, what I want to get to is the depth of this poisoning to the cells and the tissues, because imagine the body at its essence, that's what it is. We have cells that combine to make tissues, which combine to make organs, which combine to make the organism. So the waste goes into the body, permeates the cells and the intestinal walls, and then it sits and it nests in the body at large, in the cells and the tissues. So if we're talking about detoxifying the body, we're talking about getting in there and getting all that stuff from all those decades and all those meals and all that stuff that you don't even think about or remember out. And you're not going to get that out on the treadmill. You're not going to get that out a week at the Golden Door. That's going to take some time. Now, the degree to which that exits is going to be the degree to which your baby is going to be healthier and avoid more of these illnesses. Have you noticed the the children are getting sicker and heavier younger? It's no longer that, they're fine until they're 20 or 30 and then, or 40 and things start falling apart. They're 12, or they're 4. They've got, ADD, or they're diagnosed with, asthma, so many names. But they all these names are names of the same illness that is waste in the cells. They're just a bunch of different names that they come up with each time it manifests in a different way. Do you see that? So if we can remove that which which holds the energy back from flowing, remember the energy is the life force. Where it gets stopped is where your illness is going to be. If we can fix that before pregnancy, to the extent you're able to, you're going to have a kid that's way, way better off. So that's really important to keep in mind. So when you're pregnant, you don't really want to start something like this because it will jostle the body. When all this waste gets awakened, again, this is toxicity. If this toxicity is going through the bloodstream, then it's not something you want going through your bloodstream when you're pregnant, because that's going to go straight through the placenta to the baby. So we try and do that before, as much as possible, and then if you're pregnant and you've been living on grilled cheese sandwiches and chips and soda, then you gently transition away from that. And the way to do that, getting back to the initial question, I'm sorry I've kind of gone roundabout, but this I think gave you guys a really good foundation, is to put in more vegetable juices, more raw salads, or I should say some, because you haven't had any. So you have small amounts of these things initially. You don't go full throttle. You don't, even pre-pregnancy, you don't just jump in and say, I'm going to be raw today, and I'm just going to, be a raw foodist now. No, you transition very, very slowly, take into account the emotional, the psychological, the social aspects of your life, and where are you physically? Are you a cesspool, or are you reasonably clean? And then you go from there.
We'll take 2 more questions,
Okay.
and then we'll have dinner.
What's a good way, or what we top foods to do it? Like if you're on a budget, you don't want to spend a lot of money. What are really good?
Great question. Okay, so one of the things that's it's superior to anything else in pregnancy is juicing. Often people think that's expensive. If we're talking about juicing, I'm going to go through a few things. But for juicing, carrots and romaine, you can juice cheaply and quickly. So that's something to think about for juicing. Sweet potatoes, all winter squashes, super inexpensive. Bake them, throw a little bit of organic butter and sea salt on. Those are excellent. All your winter fruits are inexpensive. If you buy fruit seasonally, you're also going to spend a lot less money. So buying in season really helps. Also a lot less toxic because it's not coming, from sprayed in other regions. And what else? The apples, bananas. And stick to basic foods. A lot of people get scared off from the health food movement because they think the foods are more expensive. But that's only because they're looking at all the packaged, over-processed foods. The foods in the raw food movement, for example, all the expensive ones, I wouldn't eat anyway because they're so clogging, they're so dense. The goal isn't to eat a pound of macadamia nuts instead of a piece of grilled fish. That's crazy. because the grilled fish will go through the body a lot faster than the dense macadamia nuts. In that sense, just a reminder to use your noggin and kind of think about how this stuff will move through the body, as opposed to just kind of reading, oh, well, I heard nuts were good, or I heard I should eat a lot of fruit. Well, if you eat a lot of fruit and you start bloating like crazy, you're not going to the bathroom, stop eating fruit. So really kind of get in there, take personal responsibility, and think these things through as much as you would. You guys are educated people. You've written theses on all kinds of things. I'm sure many of you are PhDs and have your masters. You've put your mind to other things. Put your mind to this, and you'll find the solutions. But yes, also sprouted grain breads are a great move, because it's a way of getting that bread fix sorted out, but not having a clogging sort of a bread. There are a lot of good options there. Yeah. Well, you show me a cow that drinks milk, and I'll confirm that. Yeah, we're actually the only species that drinks the milk of another species, and particularly after weaning age. After weaning age, milk is done. We do not need to take in milk. This idea that we should be giving our 5-year-olds milk is ludicrous. And I have the proof in the pudding. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they are gloriously healthy. They do not drink milk. I'll make them almond milk if they want to have the flavor of milk. If they want to make, chocolate milk or something, because they see their friends drinking chocolate milk. It is not a necessary part of either lactation or adulthood, or over 2. Yeah. There was a question. Okay.
What are your thoughts on ion body detox as a method of extracting toxins from the body?
What is it called?
Ion body detox, where there's electrons in the water.
Okay. So ionic charge, really interesting question. Any quantum physicist in here? No? Okay. I can speak safely, no one's going to contradict me. No? So basically, what is the atom? The atom, you've got this, the shell with electrons and the neutron, and you've got the protons. So we want to have ionic charge around us, because ionic charge is what generates the life force. It goes right back to the energy question. Really good to sort of end on this. So when the electrons meet the electrons of the next atom, it's like they start conducting. Basically, is what they do, because it's electromagnetic charge is what the electron is. So when we have a healthy atom, a healthy cell is going to be a negatively charged cell. Everything in nature that is good for us is negatively charged. Fresh air, fresh water, raw fruits and vegetables are negatively charged. Mother Earth herself, the reason we call it Mother Earth as opposed to Father Earth is because Mother Earth is alkaline. It's literally negatively charged. Everything in life is polarity. So everything that exists has a polar charge. And everything in nature is negatively charged, which in this case is a good thing. It's alkaline. So anytime we hit our bodies with a lot of alkalinity, it's going to magnetize the waste, the old stuff. And the waste is acid, is acidic. So I shouldn't say it's acid, it's acidic. And so when we take in substances that didn't belong to the human body, in the human body, and they sit, they have an acidic charge. They have a positive charge. Okay? So the negative ions go in, and they literally magnetize. They collect the bad stuff, the positively charged acidic matter, up and out of the body. And then up out of the body, and then the body releases it, hopefully through the skin, the lungs, the bowel especially, and moves it through. So this is where ionic charge is smart. I'm not familiar with this particular method you're speaking of, but anything, that's why we feel better at the beach and the mountains. We're getting high off of the cleanliness of the air and what it's doing for us. We belong in an alkaline environment. It's a really important question. Yes. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Natalia. And I really wanted to encourage everyone to go to Natalia's website, detoxtheworld.com. I've admired Natalia for many years just through her books, because she takes so many different fields. There's the vegan, the vegetarian, the raw foodist, the mainstream American, and she really makes it all encompassing. And her website has amazing audios. You literally just click on it, you listen with your little iPod earphones, and it is just the greatest honor to have you here. Thank you so much. Let's have dinner.